All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now live. Today we have a very spicy space, or what we call it, YouTube live stream, breaking news, YouTube live streams are a thing again, and we're here every single Monday to Friday at 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern time. We're doing it every single day. We have the spiciest man on the planet. I mean, this is a guy that I am obsessed with because not only he is apparently part of the Sappy Seals fam, but he says, and this is literally on his social, it says, "Shut up, nerd. We are building culture." The man, the myth, we've got Coop here. This is the thing. I'm collecting Pokemon right now. The Pokemon entail everybody in gaming chains. We've got Ed. We've got a couple people from Avax. Now we need to get the man on gaming on Avax. Here we've got marketing. Coop, how are you doing today?
Dude, I'm doing great. Your energy is giving me more life.
The crackhead energy. Listen, yeah. I know that you're used to talking to like 30-year-old men. I'm practically out of the womb in comparison. So maybe there's perspective here, but a lot of people have been saying that you need to chill the heck out. I don't know if it's the coffee I currently have in my hand or if it's just that I'm just excited to talk to you, but I'm pumped for this. I'm pumped for this.
Dude, same. Are people telling you to stop? I think they're wrong.
They're wrong. They're wrong. Yeah. They should be wrong. You should look at some of these Twitter spaces is all I have to say. Anyway, so we've got the marketing at Gaming on Avax. And I'm going to be honest here. I'm not on the Wolves DAO, and you're a member of the Wolves DAO too. They've got big alpha in the crypto gaming space. Apparently, they're also offering a bunch of different things, so good for them. And I'm like, I don't have the insider. What we call it in the crypto gaming space is the cabal. You're in the cabal. Like, is it a cult? How does it feel like to be in there?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like cabal.
Yeah,
I see it as sort of like a place where a lot of people work in the space. You know,
okay,
it's alpha, but it's also many people working in the space, and for me, that's been great because I just don't have like a professional network area that I hang out in, other than a couple of Twitter groups.
I feel like that's all of us. A lot of people say they're like, "Oh, how do you make 6 figures as a creator or as someone that works in the space?" And it's like we just randomly reach out to people. We're just like that. We're weird. I think we have problems. And talking about problems here, you've got a Sappy Seal here. And why I wanted to mention this is because when I first got into the crypto gaming space, I remember the vision with the Sappy Seals and their pixel token and how people were so excited for that. A lot of people built their brands off of specific NFT collections. And so maybe let's take a step back. People always ask you about AVAX stuff. Screw the AVAX stuff. Let's talk about you. How the hell did you randomly decide one day, I'm going to get into this thing and I'm going to buy this Sappy Seals picture and I'm going to make this a reality?
Yeah, there was an era where many reply guys were taking over basically. And it was like
reply guys.
Yeah, it was the reply guy era. And I think, Alex Shillin Villain from Solana was like
oh my god
at that time.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and everyone was like sitting in his spaces and like just replying, and they were engagement farming the hell out of everybody. And I saw a bunch of Sappy Seals doing it, and they were funny. And they also had this GIF, maybe it wasn't GIFs, but this meme machine that helped.
They do.
Yeah,
that was recent though, right? The past like 6 months.
Maybe like 9 months, but
yeah, fair.
Yeah, pretty recent. And when that came out, I thought it was awesome because you put your Sappy Seal into whatever scenario you want and use it as a reply. And so I got a Sappy Seal because they were all doing it.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a part of it, and it helped, like definitely helped build my brand a little bit.
And like, did you do that when you started, or was it something you just randomly noticed 9 months in and then you were like, okay, let me just do this randomly. I'm sure it'll work out.
Yeah, I had already started and decided that I was going to like grow my account, and
okay.
I had been doing that for a little while, but I think I was like I had recently learned about the reply strategy and just how, putting yourself out there worked really well. So that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, sometimes it's simple. What would you say? Because I know that the Twitter meta has evolved a lot. From the perspective of someone in marketing, I'm an influencer creator, whatever the hell you want to call it. How would you say that a person in today's day and age should go ahead and go about growing a platform and networking within Web3? Should they randomly DM people and just be like, please talk to me, I'm begging? Or are there different strategies for this?
Yeah, it's been a little while now for me, and I was in a different situation where working at Ava Labs and working at other projects, like I had a good reason to network with people,
Yeah.
so that helped, get me acquainted and inside. But I think the way to do it is still pretty much the same of like find 10, 20 accounts that are bigger than you and that are posting great content and start engaging with them, and don't just spam them. Just engage with their content, send them a DM, being appreciative of what they do in the space. You're probably not going to like build this great friendship with somebody with 100,000 followers, but like, maybe they appreciate it. Maybe they like some of your stuff. And then find a group that is really more around your size and interested in what you do. And so like we have these gaming cabals now where everyone's
Yeah.
chatting, and it's really a networking group. And I think
We're
it
just
helps.
talking trash.
Yeah, we're just talking shit. And but I think the result is like, yeah, you build some friendships, and Twitter's still so heavy on like who engages with your content determines where it's going to go. So if you're in that network and they're engaging with your content, some of the people that follow them might see it. So that's how I go about it. And I'm only at like 26,000 followers or something, but
Only, right?
I mean, it always, the funny thing is it always feels like, every milestone you reach now feels like shit. You're like, I wanted 10,000 followers and now I'm like 10,000 is nothing. And
Yeah,
20,000.
I'm gonna be honest, like, I'm pretty desensitized to the number at this point. I
Yeah.
would say that Twitter numbers are a lot more inflated than something like YouTube, for
Mhm.
example. But just as a resource, if you screw the little numbers, it's very useful getting into these little cabals, learning about the ins and outs of the industry. One of the
Yeah.
things that kind of shocked me when I first got into crypto gaming really big was when you start talking to all these VCs and they just start spewing out all their strategies on what they invest in and how all these game developers are going about doing their releases. And it's like, I feel like when I entered the space, I was really dumb and benign and I just knew nothing about anything. But then you just go into enough meetings and you learn things. I don't know how it just kind of works. You can read as many books as you want, but you'll never be prepared. And so how the hell did you prepare to do marketing on one of the biggest chains on the planet? Like, how does that even happen?
Definitely by doing it. I got
Fair,
in the space
fair.
in 2021 and I worked for two projects that were actually like on Avalanche. And without that experience, I think I would be a huge flop at gaming on Avalanche. But like, got really acquainted with what works in our space before moving to Avalanche. And my
100%.
story at Avalanche is actually, I started as a research writer, and I was just
Oh,
supposed to like make content, write stuff, and and I still write and make some content, but pretty quickly we realized that the gaming vertical needed more attention, needed somebody to like help them market everything that they were doing. The guy who was running it was our VP of growth, and he was like both trying to run gaming marketing and the entire team and like everyone else who does marketing. So I stepped in and helped and basically just took it over.
it, that's how it is. A lot of the time, what the biggest phrase that I give to people is like, just fucking figure it out. like you just need to fucking figure it out. All the people that have made it in the space, I talked to them how they got in. They're just like, well, I was doing this one thing and then it kind of just took over, man. Like the other guy had
Yeah,
too much shit in his belt, and there you go. I'm Coop now.
it's
So
true.
cool, right?
It's a good startup strategy is basically like get
100%.
in there and do it. And if
Show
it
your
goes
value, and
well,
people will go ahead and get to you.
right.
In terms of platforms, when people are talking about like where you should be focusing, to this day, sadly, I don't know why Twitter keeps getting so much adoption on crypto. It's fucking Twitter. I've tried the other platforms. I go to TikTok, I get gulagged in 2 seconds. I try Instagram, unless you're doing cute little pudgy penguin memes, you're screwed. If you're on Twitter, then sure, you do a little thread and you do the little reply guy thing and you're great. Do tier lists, even
Yeah.
better. And then YouTube is like, I think we're the only one that exists other than like Stash and a couple others. So it's a
Yeah.
tough little world out here. It's a tough little world out here.
I know. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. It's
It
just
doesn't.
that,
It makes no sense.
yeah, this is just how it is because that's what got established, like 5, 10 years ago as the channel for talking about crypto. And so now we're here. So I still recommend, like, yeah, definitely putting an emphasis on Twitter because that's where the people are for us. But like games, especially, need to go beyond it and they need to like get out there into Instagram, TikTok, YouTube to show off the actual game and put the Web3 stuff aside a little bit.
100%, 100%. And as these games begin to get more Web2 adoption, trust me, they're not going to Twitter. They're not. No. They're going everywhere else, because the average gamer can't be asked to go to platforms like Twitter. I didn't make a Twitter account until I got into crypto, so I'm sure they're all coming out over here. And so how are you prepping for that? How are you prepping for the Web2 mass adoption thing that everybody keeps talking about that's apparently going to be really revolutionary?
Yeah, well, for Ava Labs and Avalanche, we are a developer platform, like first and foremost. And like we want to attract the developers to build their products on Avalanche. And it's up to them to go to mass adoption and get, regular players while we focus on blockchain tech. So that's really my answer, is like the games have to do it. And
the games have to do it. We're just building the tech. Yeah. That's fair.
We have to advise them. We're not a publisher. I know like the conversation a lot of times is like blockchains should be publishers because people don't think they'll succeed otherwise. It's just not our strategy. So we look to Shrapnel and Off the Grid and Providence and all the great games to really take their game to market.
Okay, that makes sense. So when we go ahead and ask, why should I build on your chain? The conversation's not like, we're going to do all the marketing for you and all you have to do is just like exist as a game. It's like, you still have to put your own worth on there and you got to do the blood, sweat, and tears of marketing. We're just going to help you a little bit if you need it. Just a little bit.
Yeah, like we will help seed your audience and help the Web3 people see you. Obviously we have great channels for that, but it's not going to be the 100,000 gamers that you want.
No.
And the real reason, I know this is part of the discussion today, was like the real reason that anyone chooses Avalanche these days is for subnets and the scaling opportunity. And a lot of teams, they think that's really attractive because they want to do more than just build their one game. They see that first game as like hit potential that grows their brand, but also draws in other games who are going to want to do the same thing. And now they can turn around and offer that to games as a service.
That makes sense. Yeah. Everybody's just trying to make a studio. They're like, I know my game is probably going to fail. 90% of games fail. But if I throw enough of them out there and if I make sure that the first one works out, then I'm sure as hell going to make it in the space. It feels like they're not really just looking for one game. I don't know a single gaming studio that is just like, yeah, we're all in on this one game. Everything else is just a byproduct of it. Even Echelon Prime, they made Parallel, which I thought was a great product. But then instantly they're like, okay, we're building Colony. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. So, and then there was Off the Grid, which apparently I saw a Crypto Stash video and they have a mobile game.
They do. They have a mobile game called Technocore. And
Technocore.
It's really just like it's a mobile game and it's a lead in to the world. Like everything you get in Technocore is an NFT that can be used or sold in Off the Grid. So I think that's really interesting because one of the cool aspects of blockchain is like interoperability, right? But it's hard to do when it's other games. It's a lot easier if it's like your studio building these separate game worlds that are all connected.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the competitiveness in this industry. It's like nobody's going to give you your IP unless there's something that's mutually beneficial or maybe parasitic in some way, right? So people are trying to take advantage of people. It's always going to be the way of business. Business is very cutthroat. In Web3, it's a little bit less cutthroat, even though people might get the perception of like scammers and all these different things. We work together a lot more often than traditional Web2 brands, which is great. And I'm sure that's only going to get better as time progresses. It's still a problem, though. And talking about, subnets here, I talked about this on this Twitter space we had like 2 hours ago, but I want to kind of hone in on it because I didn't know this game existed, even though I think I'm following it, right? Am I not? Fading? Okay, no, never mind. Okay. It's just Twitter being weird. Anyway, so Pulsar, these guys, I hadn't heard of them. And then randomly, all of a sudden, I saw this little post from Paul Barron talking about how many transactions they had on their subnet. And then I'm like, well, this makes a lot of sense. Sure, all these transactions aren't the most important transactions in the world, but they're very necessary to keep track of what's happening in any given instance in their game. And there's going to be a lot of these games that end up going fully on chain. Right. And one of the problems that I see is like, right now they're doing 42 transactions per second. Not that many people probably know about Pulsar. Imagine if they did. Like, how many transactions per second would the average crypto game have? How the hell is Avalanche ready for the amount of transactions that's about to come to this space?
Yeah, that's a good question. So like every subnet is, its own blockchain. And so that's 42 TPS, probably max that it reached on their chain. but that's the only thing there, right? It's like all for them, and so that really
Right.
helps make it smooth and cheap still. And I just looked at this stat. I guess across all subnets, the max TPS over the last 7 days was about 250, and that's not a limit. That's just what we hit. The limit is really, I mean, it really does scale pretty well beyond normal because everything is on their own chain. And then really right now every subnet is EVM. It's using the Ethereum virtual machine, and it's not the fastest virtual machine, right? Like Solana is faster. Move is really interesting, and one of the benefits of this Avalanche network is that when you build your subnet, you don't have to use Ethereum virtual machine. You can use Move or Sol or whatever. And we actually do see games exploring that option. I think for now, Ethereum is like it's what everyone's used to. A lot of developers, it's kind of the norm, but over time, we think that'll change. And so the TPS of Avalanche will also change because any virtual machine can be used on these subnets.
Oh my god, Avax is the shizness when it comes to gaming. Breaking news. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy to see how these chains handle this stuff. EVM, like, let's be honest, once you get to the thousands, I don't know, like they all break. Last time I saw an EVM, it was what? It was a ZK2 rollup. It was Polygon. They were launching Sunflower Lands. It was a long time ago, okay? And the second that they launched it, the entire chain just nuked itself. Like, it just died. Persisted, nothing was there for a good day or so of complete destruction. Solana's trying it, and they've been up for 380 days. You got to give props to them. Yeah. There was this time where they were dying every probably 2 months or something like that. But now they're doing pretty damn well. So you got to give props to them there. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen Avalanche die, but I remember that there was an AVAX inscription phase where the fees were absurd. I'm sure that there are probably people still farming that. What do you think about the inscription meta and like how that would affect some of the gaming plays as well in terms of people building their NFTs on there?
It's really not for me. I'm not personally interested in inscriptions. It's not to say it's like not going to stick around or anything, but it just seems I don't really get it. And
I don't get it either. It's the same shit, right? Like, well, technically not.
Like technically a little different, but like they're trying to achieve something similar. And it did get gas got high during that inscription craze on Avalanche, but it did stay up and other networks went down. And so we were happy with that result. The real goal is like when something like that comes along, we want them to utilize subnets. We want them to say, this is really high throughput. You're spending a lot on gas. Like, why not put your app on this subnet? They didn't necessarily go for that, but that's the goal.
Yeah, and do we care about these inscriptions? Like, they go ahead and build on AVAX layer 1. Can we just go ahead and decide, oh, I'm going to screw it, go to one of these subnets, plug in my marketplace there and use that? Or are they two different things?
That's the goal. It's truthfully like not done yet. We need more better communication between subnets and the Avalanche C chain, but that is like the primary goal of the engineering team is to figure out how everything can communicate so that a marketplace on a subnet feels just like using Avalanche C chain. It can access all the same assets. That's the goal.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's just like, are we far away from that? Are we getting there? Are we all goats?
It's like we are all goats. It's in beta, and it's being tested. And,
okay, so it's in beta. Wow, so you're getting close.
Yeah, I think we're getting close. I see tidbits about it all the time. So I hope it's this year.
Yeah, and are any other chains doing this? Are they compatible with their little subnets and their channels and workloads? Because I've seen a couple chains talking about it, but it's always something separate.
Yeah, it's not. No, I don't think so at this point. Well, like Cosmos has their interconnected bridge, and I actually don't know everything about Cosmos.
So, IBC. Yeah, I know about IBC. Yeah.
But outside of them, every other ecosystem is like completely separate chains. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone knows that they need to make these chains work together, but there's not a live solution that really works, as far as I know.
Hopefully we get there in the next year, because all these different crypto games, let's be
Yeah,
honest,
they need
they don't care. They
Yeah.
do not care about where they're building. A great example of that for me, we also talked about it, was Mavi. It launched yesterday, and I don't even know. I mean, I think they're on Ethereum. My NFTs are on Ethereum, but the chain they're building on is kind of irrelevant. I mean, some of these crypto games will probably not even require a subnet, because most of the utility is just maybe a PFP or an avatar, a limited amount of them. Who cares? But then some of these crypto games, it's like you mine, transaction, you go ahead, throw your pickaxe at something, another transaction. It's like 300 transactions for one little task. So some of them make sense, others it doesn't make sense. I know there was a lot of talk on some chains in regards to empty transactions versus more code-filled transactions. Is there a problem with having transactions that are very intensive, like there's a lot of code on them, versus some of those that are just like, okay, this is a transaction number to transfer some asset to another asset?
I think that's kind of like getting into inscriptions in some ways.
Is that like inscriptions? Yeah.
Inscriptions where they're really just not putting a lot into the transactions, because it's not a smart contract, but it's sending a message. And so, it was one of the ways it became really cheap, is by doing less in that transaction. I don't really have a strong opinion on that overall, but
me neither. I don't have any of those things, but yeah, great for them, right?
Yeah,
they're all farming it.
I did want to say, like, when it comes to the games and how deep they go on blockchain, and that is like that is definitely something that we consider when talking to games. Like, we are a best fit for games that want to put a lot of data on chain, and that's why a subnet is so attractive. And so sometimes if you're just like, yeah, we're just gonna have some NFTs, it's not really for us, or not necessary to use an Avalanche subnet.
Okay, let's spice it up then. Maybe you can give us some alpha here. We got Shrapnel here. I'm gonna be honest. I don't really know how many blockchain transactions are coming. Is it whenever someone gathers a Sigma that's going to be recorded on chain, and that's why they need to build on Avalanche, or is it something else?
No, I don't think it's that deep. But what they are doing is, because it's an extraction shooter and you take away your weapons and everything, every time you enter a match, all of your items go into escrow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
They're held by a smart contract until you exit that, and then given back to whoever, wins them. And so, like, every match, you're going to have every single player putting all of their items into a smart contract. So I think it gets pretty deep on that front.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Off the grid is pretty similar too, actually. It's like
off the grid, yeah.
Yeah, I think
it's also an extraction shooter, right? A lot of Tarkov like games are coming out.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense if you've played Tarkov. Like,
Tarkov is beast. I love it.
Yeah, your inventory is like really important. Of course, having that on chain and tradable sounds cool. And off the grid, same kind of thing. I think from a on-chain perspective, they have a lot happening, because every item, every weapon is an NFT, and you have a bunch of them, not just like one gun, right?
Yeah, because a lot of people see the perspective of like, I need assets that go up in value, or else I don't consider it NFT. And then I'm like, no, guys, anything could be considered an NFT technically, right? Anything that you own and is recorded on a blockchain could be considered an NFT. It's a non-fungible token, so it doesn't really matter.
And I think their goal is to make everything valuable, or have a value, and that's why, like, going in and winning a match could be so exciting. And
Are they Roy boys? Are they Roy boys?
I mean, I doubt they would say that, but that is the purpose of being able to trade your stuff, right? Is having some value.
I'm not the one saying it. I'm not the one saying it. Well, actually, I think I did say it on Twitter yesterday. I think I was talking to like Yellow Panther or something, and he was like, "The Roy boys must unite." And then we were like, "Fuck it, we're all tweeting out that we're Roy boys."
Nice. Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's
we're memeing it up. We're memeing it up.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, let's talk about volume, because everybody calls you the baby brother of Solana. Are you the baby brother, or are you the big boy in this relationship?
I think we are the baby brother. I mean, like, if we're just being honest about it, it's like, that's how people see us. Perception is reality. And I think Solana has stood out as an L1. And what I think is, like, everyone's been so married to Ethereum for so long that anyone kind of disrupting that is good for the alternatives. You know, like
Oh yeah.
if people open their mind to Solana, maybe they'll open their mind to Avalanche, and I think it's good for the industry.
100%. Yeah, one of the things that I noticed yesterday, and this is why I wanted to mention this, is because you guys are 100% okay with promoting anyone. You're like, as long as there's adoption of cryptocurrency gaming, I'm 100% down for this. As long as you win, I'm probably going to win because you guys are confident in your product. You're confident in what you're providing for projects with your subnet technology. So it makes a lot of sense. And that's how it should be. There are a lot of projects out there that go, oh, we're better than this project, or we're faster than this project, and they couldn't actually handle X, Y, or Z. We can. It's like, none of that matters.
Yeah.
Everybody's copying each other's technology for the most part, let's be honest, to some extent. Obviously not like one for one in terms of concepts and throughputs and all that different stuff. And it's like, the only thing that matters is reputation on a chain. We learned that from Ethereum very clearly. The network effect from it all and the benefits therein. That's third. The first two are the most important ones. So Avalanche marketing is extremely important. What kind of presence is Avalanche trying to do that has nothing to do with Avalanche? Maybe like we're going to some other chains, also exploring collaborations with them as well. Are you doing any of that kind of outreach, or is it a lot of just AVAX gaming?
No, yeah, I think that's a lot of my job is to get outside of AVAX gaming and just talk to people. And like my title is marketing, but so much of my time is spent with people like you or just content creators trying to support them in a way that makes them feel good about creating content about Avalanche. So I was on a space today that was like about L2 scaling solutions. I'm like, not an L2, but I'm here. So
yeah, no, we were there. I was like, I'm not an L2 either.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm here.
Right. And so like you said about supporting other projects, like you posted about Mavia, and that sounds cool. And like, we're here to support you and not so worried about like, is it always about Avalanche? Because I don't think it can be.
That's how it should be. I recently got out of this 1-year relationship, and that 1-year relationship, not an actual like relationship, it was a lot predicated on one specific thing. And if I didn't cover that specific thing, I was might as well get kicked out of it to the curb. So when I opened up my horizons, let's just say, and I looked at some other relationships like AVAX and Ronin and IMX and many of the other gaming chains out there, very receptive and welcoming. It's something I didn't realize. But once you get away from the maxis a little bit, and it's weird because there are some maxis that are very receptive to other chains. Like the Ronin maxis, for example, I've talked to a lot of them. They invest into Avalanche products. They invest into Polygon, Arbitrum, Optimism that's on the come up, et cetera, et cetera. There's no prejudice in crypto gaming. There's a lot of prejudice in some of the other just regular DeFi chains where they're all maxis. And if you're not on the BNB chain, you might as well be kicked out of the cabal. But the cabal in crypto gaming encompasses every chain, which is something very important to keep in mind, that gaming bridges gaps in communication in every form of life that has so much more to do than just blockchain in general. But I feel like blockchain brings people together for a common cause that everybody's kind of pissed off about, which is the current situation happening globally. So gaming is kind of like that escape.
Yeah.
And it's really important to get that decentralized away from those sources and into the hands of the big old masses like Avalanche.
Yeah, I think there's just a difference in the goals. Like DeFi people don't expect like everybody to get into DeFi, right? But as gaming, like we think this whole industry needs to blow up and like, go to hundreds of thousands of people, and we're just like not as worried about how that happens as long as it happens.
As long as it happens, that's all that matters. Exactly. Yeah. And AVAX is working with a bunch of different brands doing things as well. I remember back in 2021, there was the whole like metaverse phase where there was the sandbox and all these different places. Do you still feel like metaverses are the hype? Or do you think people are going to go into these pseudo metaverses, such as Nifty Island? I know Nifty Island has been getting a lot of, at least, coverage lately. I don't know if it's getting a lot of adoption, but it's a cool game. I played it. And so do you think we're going to be sectioning ourselves off to a lot of these like Fortnite instance-based custom maps? And that would make a lot of sense for transactions, right? Because different maps, different instances. Or do you think metaverse has actually got a shot in this world?
I mean, I think a metaverse has to just be a fun game that people really like. And sure, you can have the idea that it's going to be a really big game and do all sorts of things inside of it. But if nobody wants to play it, like who cares? So I think the term metaverse is kind of like,
It's lame.
Yeah, it's like dried up, washed up, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, that's pretty much my take.
Your take is like, I don't want to talk about this. That's fair. That's fair. So you said that the highest TPS that you saw on an AVAX subnet was somewhere around 250. What are we looking like on the actual in the last what?
7 days.
Okay, in the last 7 days. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. What about in general? Like, how are we doing in the AVAX world out of the subnets?
What do you mean?
Like in just AVAX in general?
How are they doing? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, don't you have like a C chain or something like that, or an X chain?
Yeah. There's the Avalanche C chain, which was like the main chain for a long time before subnets. Yeah. If you're asking about TPS there, I can check. Let's see. I think I can check.
We don't talk about Voxverse here, my friend.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That's painful.
That's annoying. I love Woolright. Love that guy.
So
he's played so many of the Sims. Okay.
It looks like in the last, let's do the last year. The last year, oh wait a second. Is that right? There's a peak of 67. That sounds wrong. I feel like we
67.
Yeah, I feel like we saw a lot higher on the C chain. But the, like I said, like the main goal for Avalanche is just to be splitting up the transactions across subnets, like parallel scaling in a way.
So the goal has never been to be on that main chain. It's just all subnets.
Yeah, I mean, that is really the goal, is to like have subnets be doing most of the heavy lifting for transactions, and they can use, the goal is that they can use liquidity and assets that are on the C chain, but process transactions with them across subnets.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. All right, let's go back to 2021 for a second, because we love that year. It was my favorite year. You know, a lot of great things happened. I lost a lot of money, but we don't talk about that part. We talk about the spicy things that happened. There were games like Axie Infinity. Remember, you know, Peg Axie, Crabata was on Avalanche. I didn't forget about that one. Very fun times in the crypto gaming space. Evolution. There's been a lot of evolution in the space. Games are getting ready. They're like, okay, 2024 might be the year. We're all definitely launching a token this year. I don't know if a game's coming out, but the token, we know that's happening for sure. What games are you very excited about? 3 on AVAX, and then maybe 3 on non-AVAX. Ooh, spicy one.
All right, well, 3 on AVAX, Shrapnel, Off the Grid, and then I'm gonna throw in Fableborn. I think
Fableborn. Ooh, that's a mobile one, right?
It is mobile, and that's part of why I think it's so cool.
And they have to follow me.
Yeah, follow Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah, they're mobile, and I think mobile just has so much potential. You know, that's where most people game. It's a casual. Right. It's got the right idea for it all, and their studio is just really good. Seems like they really know what they're doing and do everything with great intention. And so they would be my third, on top of Shrapnel and Off the Grid, which I think are like obvious. You know, they look amazing. They have great potential for mass adoption. So those are my 3 on AVAX. I definitely can come up with 3 for somewhere else. Yeah, airdrop. Interesting.
That's all there is, yeah.
3 elsewhere.
Oh, this is a hard one.
Yeah, I'll see. I mean, everything's popping in my head, but I don't know if they're the right ones.
You better not tell me like Crypto Raiders or something.
No. Checking my list here.
You have a list?
I have a list of people, and they usually are attached to something.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. What about like I don't know, Sugartown? What do you think about Sugartown?
You know, Sugartown came to mind, and I do like them, and I like their team, but right now it's like I don't see them going outside of Web3, and maybe that happens in the future, but like right now it's, you know, just on Twitter. And what I really want from a game is for them to go and try to reach the bigger audiences, and so I just don't see that right now. I don't know if that'll change.
Maybe they're just like, oh, this is a good question. You probably talk to a lot of these teams. What is the ad spend per user right now? Like, how much does it cost to acquire a user on PC and mobile? Because I've talked to a couple like regular boring mobile brands, and they're like, well, it costs us 2 cents to maybe 5 cents at the maximum to acquire a person. I suspect that number's a lot higher in Web3.
Yeah, I think it is. Especially if you have a game like Sugartown where you have to connect a wallet. It's like very Web3 forward. There are games that aren't messing with that. You know, you just regular sign up, just
Yeah.
download the app, and I think they get to be in the normal range, which is like hopefully sub dollar.
Sub
Depends.
dollar?
Yeah,
That's tough.
yeah, I think so. I mean, it is tough. It's tough to get gamers.
Yeah, and that's probably the reason why these games aren't scaling. Let's be honest. Are you guys waiting for that big bull pump so that things get a little bit cheaper? More people recognize crypto, see it a little less sus.
Everyone's a little different. Like, you know,
Uh-huh.
some games are just like not trying to associate themselves with crypto at all, and they want to be that, you know, game forward. So like the pump doesn't really matter. Other games definitely, yeah, they would benefit from some market growth.
That makes sense. I remember seeing, oh my God, I love this game, but I don't even know if they're doing Web3 stuff. It was called The Bornless. And when I
Oh
played it,
yes,
I was like, holy, that game looks bomb. But they were
yes,
like, we're launching in Web 2 first, and then maybe sometime in the future we'll think about Web 3, even though they
yeah,
initially had this thing with Web 3. My thoughts on it makes sense. You know, Web 2 is a lot easier to get users in, probably harder to monetize, obviously, right? You're not throwing away $10 million raises like left and right.
yeah,
But still, you're getting the people. And the people eventually get translated over to Web3 over time. And that makes sense in terms of an adoption model. Are we thinking like the shrapnels and the off the grids are the ones that are actually going to get the users where they've got the blockchain, but you can't really notice it? Even like the Web3 maxis are like, this game's trash and the token's going to go nowhere because, you know, every part of the segment isn't telling me this thing's going to the moon. So it's
yeah.
bad. I'm like, no, it's you know, I don't know if it's bad or not, but I'm definitely not going against it just because they're not shilling themselves. It's a game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is their philosophy for sure,
Yeah.
is that they're gonna provide an experience that just feels like a great game, and the token stuff is gonna make sense, but it's not gonna be like the first thing they talk about. And I see that. I mean, I think personally we just need a lot of shots on goal with great games, and I'm happy they're here.
You're happy with with Avax. Okay. Do we have more games that will be up to par with the likes of like Off the Grid and Shrapnel coming to Avax very soon? Is this happening? Give us the alpha.
Yeah, there's gonna be an announcement. I think there's two that are pretty
What's up?
interesting that I can't give you the actual alpha, but
There's two.
yeah, I think around, you know, around GDC, hopefully we're able to announce one of them. They're
GDC.
very well known, and should
So do
be
I have to
up
go
to
there? Is
par.
it going to be that big of a deal or is it like,
I mean, you should probably go if you're going all gaming.
okay.
Yeah,
Like, it's like that?
there's gonna be, well, it's not for the announcement, just
It's just very important.
I
Is
mean,
that the
a
biggest
lot of
gaming
people.
event?
Yeah, I think it is. I don't know where you are in the world, but like if you're in the US, try to get there
Damn.
for the networking potential. Like we were talking
Sorry,
about the
Jesus Christ.
cabal kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like, you
yeah,
know,
yeah. So if you're trying to become a new creator or something like that, maybe GDC makes sense. I remember seeing it was Paisan and King Apollo over
Yeah.
at 3XP last year. And I talked to them. They were very small at the time and they were still trying to grasp the whole creator thing. After going to 3XP, bunch of connections, tons of connections. Even though they were relatively unknown on Twitter, people just spoke to them, resonated with the message, and decided to work with them. So I would
Yeah.
say if you're emerging and you live anywhere near it, it makes a lot of sense. Last year, this is why I have the growing pains. We lost a lot of money going to events. Like I was blowing through cash like that, going to these crypto gaming events. And I think that was the wrong time to do it. I think now that the markets are hotter, the games are closer to actual release, it makes a lot more sense these days. And so what would you say are like the top events that people should be putting on their radar for gaming this year?
GDC for sure. I mean, it's a Web 2 event, but it's huge, and we have our party there on the first night, and you know it's still like a month and a half away, and we already have 200 applicants.
Oh my
So
God.
like, there's a lot of Web 3 presence, and you know most people are going to sign up for the party like week of. So I think that is the best networking area, especially if you want to talk to games. Outside of that, I'm looking for 3XP again. I don't actually have any details on it,
Me
where
neither.
it's going to be or when, but like it was a good event last year. And then the token 2049s that are in Asia are pretty good. they seem to get a lot of gaming focus, so might try to go to one of those.
Yeah, and one thing I don't think I've seen a lot on Avax is these like Southeast Asian gaming studios that are building all these little experimental games that are dope. I remember that when I was looking into League of Legends and how they won against, it was Heroes of New Worth at the time. They had the Dota 2 developers. Sorry, not even. The Dota developers. It was that back then. They got them and they had this huge advantage over League of Legends. All they had to do was release the game for free, and then everybody from Southeast Asia just went ahead and onboarded it. Even though people in the US were like very averse to free-to-play models, they wanted to pay for their games for some reason. The Southeast Asia people were like, free-to-play games? That's what's up. So I feel like a lot of innovation happens around those countries, and it's always fascinating to see that if you live in a certain place, you tend to get no information on another place. And it's like, when you learn about it, it really shocks you what these gaming chains are up to in Southeast Asia and all these other countries.
Yeah, I would disagree that we are lacking in the Asia territory. So we have,
what do we got?
We've got so first off, on the team side, we have a Japan team, Vietnam team, and Korea team. And each of them has brought on games. And they're not as well publicized in the US, I think.
That's probably what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But there are, especially in Vietnam, I feel like we have this little hub of game studios that are working together, and that's been very cool to see. And then in Korea and Japan, we're working with the much larger publishing entities that you might know of, in Web 2, and bringing them over. And I think that's just taking some time, but like in the next 6 months, we should see a lot of big brands from those areas coming.
Yeah, because I feel like we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't focus on them, because they're the ones that really make things happen some of the time. So
I mean, yeah, they got money.
You can't fade.
Right, and they've been innovators in the past, and they might be a little slow getting into Web3, but they know how to make great games, and
they do.
That's what matters in the end.
Yeah, I think the only game I was excited for on Gala last year was Eternal Paradox, and that was made by a Korean publishing studio. I don't know what it is, but every time they make a game, it's always crisp. They've got like this like template that they do, and every time it's just banger after banger. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, now that we got the blockchain stuff out of the way, I think the last thing we can kind of get into is sentiment on Avax, because I know that there was this huge craze back in like November, December, where all people were obsessed with was things on Avalanche. They said everything was going to the moon, and I'm like, okay, relax, guys. Like, just one narrative in the many narratives.
Yeah.
But people were very excited for Avax Gaming at the time, and I know there's like Dami Online that's now having, I believe it's their early access that's coming out in March, and that's super exciting. And there were so many of these different narratives that were really, really popping off. What was going on in Avax at the time there? Was there any kind of like crunch where it was like, we've got to speed up development on this thing because there's a lot of hype on us right now? Or was it kind of just like, we're doing the same thing no matter what? This bull market's coming. We're just going to chill.
I don't think we changed a whole lot of our approach, but the focus does change with narratives and with new things. So I think SocialFi really popped up at that point.
Oh my God, we don't talk about that.
Yeah, I know, but that was the thing that kicked off a lot of attention.
It did.
We looked at that and put some marketing behind it, and then meme coins came popping too. Yeah, I know somebody recently just told me that they made a bunch of money off of it, and
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, they told me about it, and I didn't do anything, so good for them. But yeah, we flow around as a general blockchain. It's not all just about gaming, but at the same time, we don't pivot entirely towards whatever is new. It's just put some effort towards it and then keep everything else moving. And we think real world assets, NFTs in general, gaming, and community meme tokens, they're all going to be here to stay.
Yeah, we can't get rid of them. Might as well just embrace it, right?
I kind of think so, yeah.
You got to get the Cogginis or whatever the hell they are these days. I remember there was like a used car in Solana, all kinds of stuff. Somebody has to make like a Roy Boy on Gala chain or something. That's got to come out.
Yeah.
But it's weird how that works, where the most random, useless things pop up, and then they become so important to a chain's success. Like Ethereum, for example, we had this Uniswap craze where Uniswap went absolutely parabolic during last bull cycle. because of all the meme coins that end up coming out. It made no sense. It made no sense. But there's so much damn volume on these things. I don't know how they do it or what market makers they're talking to. But I mean, we got to have conversations with them. That's what we got to do. Like,
yeah, they would probably be good to have to talk with.
They're pumping it out, dude. That's what it is. But yeah, dude, it was a pleasure to have you. I don't know if we have any closing thoughts here, but like AVX, it's hyping it up. It's fucking pumping like crazy in terms of gameplay throughput. I'm excited to see all the games that come out. I better get invited to them so I can cover them. And yes, overall, it's a pleasure to have Gaming on AVAX marketing over here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'll come back whenever. I think last thought is we were talking about like where to get information on games, and I think our Twitter is the best place, unfortunately.
Twitter?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I love that. I'm the same way. I'm the same. I fucking hate Twitter, but you can't run away from it.
It's also like I wish we had a better website that was more like informative. We're working on that.
You have this button.
Yeah. It's no, that's not going to do anything for you, really.
Okay.
It's like some blog posts, but yeah, new website by GDC is the goal. So
GDC is going to be a big moment, my friend.
It is. I mean, it's a lot of work. Again,
right, maybe I'll actually end up going through with it. But it was a pleasure to have y'all. It was a pleasure to have y'all, Coop. Until the next time, stay classy. And that's all.